mentioned you want to have description. You want to make sure you're painting a picture for the reader. How much? What's the line, or does it vary? I'm sure it does vary from project to project, but just in general, what's a good rule in terms of how to err on the side of enough description without going too much? Like, for example, there's a House in the Witching Hour by Anne Rice that I swear to this day I can still see in my head, because it was just so ridiculously detailed. I think there were blueprints in the back of that book before the end. So where is that line, or is it better just to put too much and then pull back later?
It all depends, because I do think level of description changes depending on what kind of genre you're writing and what kind of market you're writing for. Like, for example, there is a difference between, as you know, like writing for middle grade, writing for young adult, writing for adult, and so that is something that I think about a lot, actually, when I look at manuscripts, especially when it's something that's pitched to me like, oh, it's adult YA crossover. And I'd be like, is it really? Are you just saying that because YA is super popular right now? So it does have a certain level of writing that fits the market, that is a defining feature. So when it comes to like description, like, for example, like if I were reading an adult literary science fiction or fantasy book, then I do expect a certain level of description that's different than if I were reading, even like a literary YA book or a literary middle grade book. So it's really subjective.
That makes sense.
Right.
And what are the most common mistakes that you routinely see authors make that lets you know just right off the bat, oh, I'm dealing with an amateur? Come back in a year or two when you've been doing this a little bit longer.
Like what do you mean by?
Is there anything that, like, in the first 50 pages that you might see repeated, some things you've seen in enough submissions now that make you go, oh, this isn't going to be a strongly written piece despite the initial promise? Or is there something?
I think, I think, again, it comes down to the level of writing and the confidence in the storytelling, but also, and this is actually interesting because I think the big difference between writing for genre and writing for literary is the use and handling of tropes. And I think that the assumption is that tropes are bad, that you should avoid all tropes whenever possible. But as a genre editor, like, there are certain tropes that I love. There are certain, like subgenres, there are certain subgenres that I love. And I think a skilled writer knows how to handle tropes well, whether they subvert them, whether they do a fresh take on them, whether they know exactly how tropey they sound, but that's the whole point of the book. And the writing is just so charming, you're just going to go along with it. Like, those are, that actually also ties into a writer's voice. And so I think that is usually like a big signal to me. So if I'm reading like a historical fantasy and it's the farm boy who like goes into like, the big city and realizes that he's the chosen one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It could come off as really like generic and boring, or it could be brilliant depending on, well, what if this young boy is a farm boy, but he didn't come to the city because he was a chosen one. He came to the city because he was the best friend who thought he was a chosen one. And then a best friend gets killed 20 pages into the manuscript. And then he's like, oh, what am I doing here? I now have this like quest I never expected I was supposed to do. Something like that. So
to take the familiar trope and just kind of flip it on its head a little bit.
Right.